Now, here's Joe.
Folks, every time I mention about belief or think, I receive hate mail. I tell you, I can put money on it because people start talking about religion. I'm not talking about your belief in God or religion. I'm talking about things that you have been led to believe because you went to a government school that conjured up whatever kind of comic book history, logic, and whatever, and told you, please do not think for yourself. Do not. We do the thinking, you memorize. And then we'll give you a test, and if you pass the test, you can go on to another grade where we're going to do it all over again. And then if you do well there, we're going to reward you by putting you into another class, and we're going to do it all over again until you become a mushroom when you graduate. And then people say, well, geez, Joe sounds kind of like a wacko, you know. He makes sense, but geez, he's one of them radical guys. You have to understand that you are an individual. You are the center of the universe. There is no other center. That means you must think independently. And if you are under some sort of cloak of a government, you need to be a revolutionary in thought, dissident in action. I heard a friend of mine complain about the government building this security center, monitoring center in Utah, where they're going to have the capability of monitoring everything that everyone does. And he railed about the government and the government this and the government that. And I looked at him like he was nuts. I said, what are you talking about? The government's not doing anything. He says, don't you read the news? I said, well, first, no, I don't read the news, but the government isn't doing anything. He said, how could you say that? I said, how many government officials are building that building? He says, well, no, they get contractors. You mean they get ordinary, private, individual citizens to build that building, and they know that they are building a structure that's going to be used to monitor them, their children, their mother, their next-door neighbor. They know that. No answer. And then once it's constructed, they're going to hire thousands, literally thousands of computer programmers. They're going to take all the good computer programmers out of the private sector. And then we have to move our stuff overseas, by the way, because as a result, or more so than we're doing now, they work there. I mean, these people are private citizens. Now, they're going to be programming systems. And you think they don't know what that system is? Don't tell Bob, he's the programmer. Don't tell him that system actually is going to monitor everyone's cell phone. No, of course they know. That's what they're doing. I said, so you have citizens who are not writing programs. Well, what about the receptionist when you walk in? If there is a receptionist, if anyone's allowed in the place, she has a beautiful job. I mean, air conditioning. I mean, just got flowers, new flowers every day. You know, compliments of the U.S. stupid citizen like me. And she has a very well-paid, tremendous benefits, very, very happy, and hopes after 25 years she can retire with full pay and life is wonderful. You think she doesn't know that this center is doing something that probably ain't right? So I said, Charlie, let me tell you something. There ain't nothing wrong with our government. Governments do what governments do, and our government is good at it. Governments are great at lying. They're great at killing. They're great at starting wars. They're great at taxing. They do this all great. They're great at subjugating their citizens. I give our government I give an A, not an A plus, an A. We're not an A plus yet. We have a fabulous government. I said the problem is the people. The citizens are doing it. The citizens are manning the chairs. The citizens are constructing the building. The private citizens are writing the programs. Now, just think of the ramifications of that. This blows my mind. I mean, I get so upset. Believe it or not, I can get upset. I know you find that difficult to believe. But you're going to be in your home, and let's say on a Saturday morning, you're going to be mowing your lawn, right? Mowing your lawn. Your neighbor works for that organization and doesn't have to live in Utah. He can be doing work remotely. He can be, consultant, whatever. He works in that department, for that section of the government. And you know it. You know now that your very good friend, neighbor that you've known for 12 years is now responsible for systems that are monitoring you and everything that you do. Who do you blame? The government? Heck no, I don't blame the government. Government doing a great job. I wish I was ever in my businesses, and I've had several, I wish I was as successful at what I did as the U.S. government is what they do. Governments are run to the core. Always have, always will be. You don't believe me? Start with Mesopotamia. Read history from Mesopotamia forward. You'll go, oh my God, it's all the same. But what about the citizen? And now, here's the answer. Well, with the economy the way it is, you can't find a job. And these people, they got to feed their kids. Now, are you going to deny them at least a good job? You see what happens? You see how all this comes together? And then people say, well, Joe, give me an example, please. I need an example of critical thinking. No, you need a brain. We need to break, release ourselves, get out of it altogether. We can say, it's no more. I'll give you another example. You want another example? I'll give you another, and this you will not understand. I'm going to do a whole program on this someday. If KFAQ has me back after this program, they may say, goodbye. But people complain about the central bank, the Federal Reserve. I don't. People ask me, Joe, you're a big investor, which I am. I do all my own investment. No one touches what I have. They go, don't you have an investment advisor? I said, yes, I do. I have one. A guy is great. I recommend him to everybody. Everyone should have my investment advisor. He's available. And he's never been wrong once. Never. And no other investment advisor in the world can claim that. They say, who is he? I said, write his name down. Ben Bernanke. And they look at me, they go, you've lost your mind. I know you're crazy, but maybe we should lock you up. You may be dangerous. Driving around, walking the sidewalks of the street. You may be dangerous to your own family. You've gone nuts. Folks, let me explain. Every time Ben Bernanke gives a speech, I want to listen to it. You know why? Because when I hear him speak, I know what he is saying. I don't listen to the words and what we perceive the words to be. I understand what he's saying. And if you ever watch him, every once in a while, he'll sort of wink a little bit with his left eye. He's winking at me. He goes, Joe, you know what I mean. And whatever he says, I do the opposite. And I have done extremely well. Now, actually, I don't need Ben Bernanke, believe it or not. You see, because Ben Bernanke is in charge of our central bank called the Federal Reserve, which is an independent company owned primarily by the bankers in Europe. I know you say, oh, Joe, that can't be. Ha, ha, ha. Surprise, surprise. You know why? Because I am my own central bank. You say, Joe, think critically. How do I think critically? Start your own central bank. You can't read a book on this. You can't read, the first thing you get up in the morning, you look in the mirror and say, I am going to think independent. No, you can't do that. You have to release yourself. Shed those shackles of indoctrination and propaganda. Now, I say propaganda, that's what I'm talking about. Mostly television. I got to watch my favorite program, Yeah, I can't tell you how many times people say to me, Joe, I would have done this. Yeah, I would have done that. I would have read this. I would have done this, but I was busy. And then the next question I ask is, how many hours of TV did you watch this week? Well, about 88. I mean, they watch TV more than they work on their job. And they don't have time to think. Now, am I optimistic? Do I sound optimistic? If I sound optimistic, I got the wrong vocal inflection. I'll tell you that right now. You see, my point being is that we must be revolutionaries in thought. 24 hours a day. We must be dissidents in action. The only society that is worth living in is one in which the freedom of the individual is held in the highest regard. And basically, that's our Constitution. I'm not going to get through that again. I'm not going to go through all the Constitution. I'm not going to go through that again. But I don't need the Constitution. Why did I need a Constitution or a Declaration of Independence to tell me I'm free? You mean if there was no Constitution, Declaration of Independence, I'd say, oh, man, I wish I was free, but there's no piece of paper that says that. Oh, geez, I want to think critically, but I can't because I'm going to write to the government, see if I can get a piece of paper that tells me I'm free. That makes no sense. So when we address the Constitution, we say the Constitution says, we make no sense at all. We're lunatics when we do that. Folks, I've been doing this for 6 years now. Now, if I've shed most of my brain, I guess I have. I guess I fried most of my brain on my radio programs. But if we don't wake up and everything that we see, everything that we hear, we question, do we know or do we believe? Another example, I'm at my favorite coffee shop again. I'm speaking to a friend about finance, believe it or not, some economic stuff, some investment stuff, actually. And there's a nice young fella, really a super nice guy, sitting next to it. Really, the place is crowded. You can't help. You got to whisper if you don't want anyone to hear you. And the guy said, "Excuse me, I hate breaking in. I know I'm interrupting, and I'm sort of eavesdropping in a way." I said, "No, it's okay. We're not talking about anything private." And he said, "Are you a conservative?" I said, "What's a conservative?" This is the God's honest truth. God's honest truth. May God strike you dead if I'm lying. And I said to myself, what's conservative? He looked at me, glassy-eyed. This guy was going for, by the way, his PhD in sociology. What a smart thing to do. And he just looked at me, glassy-eyed, and he was frozen, just like deer in headlights. He was just frozen, and I thought it was comical. I felt sorry for the guy. What's a conservative? He had no idea. Could you imagine if I said yes or no? He went, oh, okay, thank you. What would we have accomplished? Absolutely not. No, I'll tell you what we would have done. We would have confused the heck out of the whole conversation. And then guess what? He said, well, let me ask you this. Do you like Romney? I went, oh, boy. I said, nah, I got a problem. He said, why? I said, what led you to believe that I know Romney? He said, no, I know you don't know him, but you like him. I said, wait a minute. You just said I don't know the guy. I don't know the guy. Maybe if I met him, we'd have a beer together, have a good time, go bowling, have a great time. Folks, please use this program as a prerequisite to every single talk radio program you listen to. Okay? I'll speak to you next week.